So on this insert, there's the Dimension D and then the EQ Sistral. And so if I bypass that, we'll just hear the part by itself. That's all Spencer right there. So I was like, what if during that ride, that slide into falsetto, I kind of add an effect where it kind of like surrounds you kind of. So it's like, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then when the final hook comes in, it's like this like wall of sound. So I did the Dimension D, added that in there, and pulled up the advanced tab and just basically automated the mix knob. So as he's riding into the falsetto, I'm turning the mix knob up. So it's kind of getting wider and wider. You can hear it sound. Bro, that part gives me shivers every single time. My name's Stan Green. I'm a mixing mastering engineer. I've worked with artists such as Big Sean, Rihanna, Kehlani, Sweetie, Wale, OT Genesis, Jaden Smith. I worked on films such as Terminator Genesis, Oscar-winning films such as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The fact that there are these super talented people, writers, producers, artists, who are entrusting you with their baby. Like they spent weeks, months, years with these songs, and they're like, hey, like I basically choose you to help me take this to the finish line. And they trust your ideas and your vision. I'm very, very lucky that I'm able to do that every single day. One of the coolest moments that I had in my mixing career was mixing a song produced by Pharrell. So growing up, I was a huge Neptunes fan, Pharrell fan when I was growing up, high school, middle school. When I got the call to mix a song that he produced with Big Sean, I was super duper excited. It was like a huge moment for me. So mixing for someone that you like looked up to creatively and admire, being able to take, like I literally had a session with his stems and his files, and I'm like mixing his song and trying to make it sound better. It was a crazy surreal moment, from like being a fan to like helping him craft his sound. One of the things with my kind of workflow is that I need things that just work. So like when I put it on an insert, it has to be doing something. I don't need to try and figure out, you know, the manual and like, all right, this button doesn't really have a label. Like, how does this work? Like, I don't have time for that. I got to put it on my track, and it has to help me musically in some form. And Arturia does that.
Honey, what a shame, shame. Everybody's making me feel like a pessimist from the way it is when they move their lips.
The plugins I use the most are the Pre V76, the Comp Diode. Those are the two ones most. Like the Comp Diode is something I put on my master bus all the time. And when you put it on, it does something to the sound. It does something. And so when you hear engineers talking about why they like mixing in analog, it's because these analog pieces of hardware, they're already kind of helping you mix the song when you run a signal through it. Like it's doing some kind of EQ, it's doing some kind of compression. And so when you put in these Arturia plugins, it's doing the exact same thing. When you put it on there, it's helping you mix the song by doing some roll off, boosting a little bit, some saturation. And so when you hear engineers say, for some reason when I mix through analog, my mix comes together faster. That's exactly what these Arturia plugins are doing. Like they're helping you get to a better mix faster. So today we're in the studio with Spencer and Keaton, and we're gonna go over the vocal mix process for them as well as my mix process.
I just can't be everybody, everybody's still worried about who's at the party.
And that's on. You hear it just like come forward.
So here we have Spencer Sutherland and Keaton Stromberg. Keaton is an amazing vocal producer and producer. He co-produced this song with Storyboards, who's an amazing musician and producer. And Spencer, yeah, I've known these guys for 6, 7 years.
Yeah. I think only we've known each other in person for like 4 or 5 years.
It's crazy because whenever I get files from you guys, like the quality is just top notch.
Thanks, man.
Ours sound like bigger, and they sound like the
Yes.
vocals sound clear. They sound like right up front in your face. And that's a testament to your chain. Like you guys
thanks,
have a
man.
crazy vocal chain.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah, we've grown. I think we like have really grown together on that too, and like figured out. We've tried stuff that we loved more than others, and then we just landed somewhere, and that's where we've been.
We've gone through a bunch of different microphones and preamps and all the whole thing, and
Yeah.
I kind of just found what works, especially for Spencer. And what I've realized as a producer is like, not everyone's vocal is going to work with the same chain the same way. And it really is specific to the artist and the singer, and how it comes down to how they like to track their vocals, the chain you're using, what plugins you have on while they're tracking, what you put on after the fact to like elevate it to the next level. And one of the things that I learned pretty early on is like how many stages there are in that chain, from the microphone choice, the preamp choice, compression on the way in if you want to do that, into whatever you're using in the box when it comes to tuning or compression, saturation, all these things. And it's like all these little things stacking up, leading you to the final product. I mean, it all starts with a phenomenal performance from the artist, which Spencer's obviously incredible, and he's an amazing singer, and he just knows what he wants going into it. And I think that's really, really important, to be comfortable with the artist and know what they're wanting to go for. And I'll usually reach for like the Arturia Comp Tube. It's got like the two knobs, the retro style.
That's a dope
and
one.
Usually it's, shaving off about like 3 dB, maybe, if that, and then maybe bringing up a little bit of the gain back in just to control and push that vocal a little bit more. Like I said, I usually start out with like a compressor, so I'll pull up the tube comp here. Let's just hear what that's doing.
I just can't be everybody.
Solo that.
Everybody's still worried about.
Wow.
So this is off.
Why's everybody so out of their mind?
Let's put it back on.
I try, but there's nothing left for me. I just can't be.
Yeah, a little bit more lively, which I really like.
Everybody's just wasting
It's a
their
lot more
time.
lively.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of gain boosting just to, like I said earlier, I bring that, vocal forward a little bit more. I will probably reach for either another compressor, usually something a little bit more attack heavy, maybe like a 1176, where again, I'm probably, only taking off 3-4 dB on those peak transients. But a lot of it is, all of these processes stacking up, getting that compression to work properly. And then the magic happens, I think, when you reach for a saturation at the end. A lot of the time I'll put on a saturation like the Tube Culture.
I just can't be everybody. Everybody's still worried about who's out.
Adds a little bit like that warmth, kind of analog-y feeling, but like a nice fatness to the vocal.
Yeah.
Something that I think is really important in the music we make together is just like having a nice, huge lead vocal. And then obviously we have all these other tracks going on underneath it. You look at all these background vocals going
Just
on.
thick.
And I can even fit with those too.
Everybody's still worried about who's at the party. Whilst everybody so out of their mind.
The super cool thing about the Effects Collection 3 is like the fact that it's not eating into all that CPU, and you can have our 80 layers of tracks, going and load those plugins in. And, sometimes I bake them down, but like a lot of the times we'll just leave them on and going and to get that vibe. And then when I send it to you, I'll tend to bounce all of those things down into the track. And I'll even do that sometimes internally and, print some things down and then add even more processing to just push it even further, and then send that, baked in with all of that stuff to you, so that you can, take that and get surgical with it, or whatever you do on your end to really, elevate it even further.
Oh, it's one of my favorite plugins right here, the Pre-1973. I can put this on literally anything. As you can see right here, I have it on type 2, which type 1 and type 2, it's different characters. Type 1 is, it's like, it sounds like it's doing a slight roll off on the lows, like around 20, 30 hertz. When you click on type 2, you can hear it's like kind of boosting around 20 or 30 hertz. So if you want more of like a punchy character to the sound you're running it through, you want to do type 2. But one of the most important things with these plugins is that because they're emulating hardware, you have to keep in mind that the input gain is key. So I have that, you know, around, you know, negative 60 dB. And what that's doing is that it's giving the plugin the most, like, the optimal signal so that it can like impart the character that it was designed to do. And I also have like almost like 0.43 dB of a high shelf. And it sounds like the high shelf is kind of starting around 1K. If I take this off, you can hear it a little bit, kind of like lift it up a little bit. There's a lot of really cool gems in FX Collection 3. The COM Diode is something I use on all my mixes on the stereo bus because it just brings everything together. It does some kind of like low end boost. It might be like 30 hertz, 50 hertz. It does something to the song already to where it kind of warms it up a little bit. The cool thing with their plugins is that they have this advanced feature that I used on this song right here. And so I have the sidechain in, the internal sidechain, and I have it high passed around 80 hertz. So it's not really hitting the kick at all, but it's just kind of just like bringing everything together. And then here is the final mix.
You might say I'm lying. I just can't be everybody, everybody. Is still worried about who's at the party. Why's everybody so out of their mind? I try, but there's nothing left for me. I just can't be everybody, 'cause everybody's just wasting their time.
Your plugins are crazy, bruh. Yeah, like literally.